Hey, welcome back to Gray Matter. Today we are discussing rewatching Insecure as a 20 something. And as you tap the like button, I want to invite your perspective. Let me know. Should I do a deep dive? Because I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet and just touch on the necessary things. What I feel I've learned from rewatching Insecure as a 20 something, how my perspective has maybe shifted, the insights that it's offered, and what's next. Since Insecure as a show is done, how does its legacy play into the lives of the watchers, the streamers, the viewers? So let's go ahead and let's dive in. Let's do it. And I definitely want to know who your favorite character is or was. Was it Issa? Was it Lawrence? Was it Molly? Was it Nathan? Let me know. To me, Insecure is a wonderful story of personal development surrounded by a Black woman who lives in California. For those who don't know, I recommend the show. I love it. It feels real, human, and whole. So definitely go watch it. This time around rewatching it, it was really nice that I had access to all the seasons in one place and could just watch on a roll. But it was also kind of crazy because I remember watching this episode by episode, having wind downs with myself or my sister, and really looking forward to having these moments of basically watching what life feels like on screen, and not even realizing that as much as I relate, there's still a disconnect. Now, I feel like I'm my own version of Issa. When I look in the mirror, I'm telling myself these things. I'm having rap battles. But okay, let's add structure to this. Rewatching Insecure as a 20 something, for me, it brought such a human element. It allowed me to have more compassion, more consideration, to see how quickly you can be fixed in one thing and make a decision on one thing, and then it can change. To be like, oh, I'm rooting for you, and then switch like, no, you're wrong. How quickly, how impressionable we are. How this is the time to experiment and explore. Not to necessarily say that if you're in one thing, that means you're not exploring, but no. Offering bits of newness, trying new things, trying to make new friends as well. It showed me compassion in a different light. Issa's relationships really show you a lot. Honesty matters. Willingness is huge. Communication is way up there. There are times when we see Issa make mistakes. And mistakes are different to everyone. Mistakes align with your moral code. So if you agree with it morally, it's not a mistake. You feel me? It's not a mistake. But there were times where we saw that Issa was moving in a way that wasn't who she really was, and she was always brought back to who she is. There were times when Issa felt in control and like, ooh, everything's great in life and it's working, and there's times when Issa felt like, I don't know, but I'm here. I'm pretty sure we've all felt that way. In those fun times where everything's going our way and we're like, ooh, I got this. And in those times where we're like, I just want to make it through the day. I just want to make it to lunch. I just want to go to sleep in my bed. I just want to hang with my girls. It offered compassion in a new light. Grace is so necessary. Being gentle with ourselves. Those self-care Sundays, those wind downs are so necessary. And she also showed us that you may not always be surrounded. You may have friends, but you may not always be surrounded. when Tiffany had a child, when Kelli was starting, when Kelli got pregnant. Like, you see, as time passes, the closeness physically, emotionally can change, but that doesn't mean there has to be bad blood. That doesn't mean the relationship has to end. We've seen Issa take space from certain relationships or friendships. We also got to see, from the male perspective, we got to see how Lawrence processed having a kid with a different girl. How life can be unexpected. It can be out of control. For the good and for the bad. And you can get caught up. It can feel like things are moving so slow. And sometimes so fast, where you can't even take care of yourself. That balance, that harmony. For me, one of the most resounding things is the name of the show. And I feel like that is one of the most timeless pieces. Issa, if you ever hear this, thank you. Because anxiety, confidence, we see such a beautiful demonstration of what it feels like to have both exist. To be anxious or avoidant at times, but to be telling yourself, to see that higher version of yourself in the mirror and say, we got this. Who are we? And giving yourself that pep talk, keeping hope alive. That was one thing that Issa made sure to keep in the show, keeping hope alive, because your 20s can feel like a whole lot of I don't know what I'm doing, even though I feel like I know what I want. Life is showing me, do you actually want what you want? Do you want what you think you want? Is it bringing you actual joy? Happiness? Is it fun for right now? Is it going to be fun in 5 years, 10 years? You get to see things from perspectives that you may not have or have access to. Not everyone went to college. Not everyone has that friend group that is inseparable, or that is as honest, or that is as relatable. Some people just want a friend who looks like them or sounds like them. And in Insecure's case, as a Black woman, having three Black women as your friends, and that's your cohort, sounds like so much fun. And yet we also see how much work it takes. That regardless of where you are, what you're doing, you could have the best relationships, they still take work. Work, time, willingness, effort, energy. It just doesn't stop. Life is a continuation of work, of willingness, of issues, of conversations, so many things. Yet it has so much to give us. I absolutely loved when Issa would make up these fake scenarios in her head and see what would be on the other side of the spectrum. What could be. That she could be this thriving, intelligent boss lady. Or today, she could just smoke in her apartment and be like, I had a bad day. And I'm gonna call my ex because I want to do that. We see times where Issa taps into how she's feeling, and there's times when she taps into faith. Those are very important. And the times where her support system really came through, whether it was Nathan, whether it was Molly, Tiffany, Kelli, we see that we need people. We need community to thrive. It takes a village, and that is a true statement. We need people, not only when we need things, but in general, to have fun, to let loose. We saw when Tiffany was going through her postpartum, whatever you want to call it, whether it was postpartum depression or not feeling loved with Derek, we saw how her friends came together and found her and helped her. We need community as much as we need air. A strong support system is necessary, especially in your 20s, when you're bound to make or break friends, and when you're moving along and everything feels like it's changing all at once, all the time. That's what life promises, that it's always going to change. But how are you moving when life changes? How are you reacting to life's changes? Is it in a healthy way? Is it in an unhealthy way? Are you repeating patterns? Insecure has a great example and multiple examples of what it's like to keep falling into the same routine of behavior that you want to change. And having people give you advice and offer help and seeing you make the same decisions. Whether you call them mistakes or not is your choice. But it's all surrounded by the essence that we think we know. And no matter at what age, we don't know. We don't know what our parents had to do to get us here, what they had to suffer through or overcome. We don't know how people are actually truly feeling on the inside about a situation. And Issa's apology to Lawrence about not being there for him when he needed her but didn't know how to say it. His actions were staying at home and just feeling sorry for himself. She recognized that she could have did more. And that grace is necessary at each and every stage. In the stages where you have the support, you feel like life is good, and in the stages where you honestly, like I said, are just trying to make it through the day. We don't know, but we try. We don't know, but we try. Another thing that Insecure has shown me after rewatching it is expectations. Woo! Don't we have them? Expectations play such a role in how we view the trajectory of our life and what it feels like to be living in this moment. To feel so present that nothing in the world matters. Like when Issa and her friends went to Coachella and she got stuck on that Ferris wheel. Ooh, she was having a time. She was having a time. And they were having a time too because they got into that little altercation. But how it feels to let go of control, to tap in to the people that care about you, to have the people that care about you flake, and how that feels, to have difficult conversations, to avoid having conversations, to go to the Rite Aid and be shopping, to avoid having a real conversation with Lawrence. What it's like to be met with honesty. What it's like to not see outside of yourself. We could also talk about Molly's relationships and how her avoidant behavior made her unhappy to the point where she knew she had to change. And she didn't want to keep being this rigid, hard person with a set way of this is how my life is going to be or else. Because that's really not how life is. Expressing and having more grace for yourself, more compassion for yourself and for others is one virtue, one lesson that we must take away from this show. Number 2, you can be 2 things at once. You can be anxious and confident. You could be nervous about something. There's excitement energy there. And still do it. Because when you do it, you're telling yourself, I can do it. Even if you did it wrong, at least you did it. It will give you the space to be proud of yourself. Make those decisions even when you don't know. Issa was putting together the block festival, and she had to fill out all these forms, and she had to do something that she didn't know how to do. But she found a way, and help will always show up. She met Condola, and everything started to change. That is until Condola and Loris, they had a baby, so. But help will always show up, especially when you need it most. Having faith is huge. We need that. Knowing that your career accomplishments are not solely who you are. You have multiple identities. You get to choose which one you want to be today, or if you want to be both. That intersectionality. Issa is a wonderful friend. Issa is someone's girlfriend. Issa is filling in the blanks and allowing life to unravel instead of having such a tight grasp on it. Because that's where the problems start to resound. The balance of what it's like to have your friend Tiffany move away and miss you guys and make time for each other in different time zones and in different places. And when your friend has a kid, or we see how much commitment, consistency, communication, compassion are needed as time progresses and life is always changing. Issa really showed us that life isn't easy, even though her name is pretty close to easy. That life isn't easy and work will always exist. If you want to grow, you want to get better, treat people how you want to be treated. Lead with kindness. It's important to have boundaries, but it's also cool if that relationship or that thing was a teachable lesson for you and you get to say, I learned something from this. I learned something from this and now I know better, so I'm going to do better. And now I feel better because I know better and I'm doing better. There are times where maybe as a viewer, we felt bad for Issa, or we felt bad for Molly, or we were like, man, I don't know what I would do. But it's about not knowing and trusting that you're going to be okay. That, okay, you may not have your friend group today. You may not have went to college with them, but you may have one reliable friend. You may have somebody that cares. Okay, maybe your boyfriend doesn't necessarily have a job, and you don't like that. You could just leave him. You could stay with him and encourage him. It's up to you. But whatever you do, there's no wrong choice. And I know they literally say that in the show. Whatever you do, there is no wrong choice. It's about choosing. Choosing what feels best for that moment, for who you are. Because we get to see the progression and how Issa really steps into who she is. Because who she wants to be and who she is are not that far. She thinks that it's further than it is. That she is super far from achieving what she wants. Even if she doesn't necessarily know if what she wants is what's best for her. There are times when she has to learn the hard way, and there are times when stuff just sorts itself out. But overall, Insecure really showed me that as much as we know, we're still learning. And it is up to us to surround ourselves with the patience, the compassion, the willingness, the love, the understanding, and the faith to keep us afloat. To surround ourselves with reminders of self, reminders of why it is important to live now, why it is important to own up to your mistakes, to be honest, why it is important to have a strong support system, to feed into that support system, just as you do with maybe your significant other or your family. To see that family is important. There was one episode where Issa went over to her mom's house, and her mom didn't have to say much. But it was one of those moments where I need you, and that's understood and that's heard. And even Issa's relationship with Amal, yeah, they have their play fights. But we saw when Amal was like, oh, I'm so proud of you, how that reflected onto Issa, how that love is there. Sometimes we need people to say it. Sometimes you need people to show it. But surrounding yourself with good company will always make life feel better, feel easier, no matter what you do. No matter what you do. We're all a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. And rewatching Insecure as a 20-something showed me that. This has been My Gray Matter. I'll get back to you in the next episode. Let me know if you want me to do a deep dive. I'm so down with that. I'll see you later. You the baddest. She the baddest. You the baddest. She the baddest. I'm the baddest.